Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Now, we're just focusing on the power relation between Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and Israel. 2006, in the August War, Hezbollah launched 4,000 short-range missiles against northern Israel. These were very short-range, wildly inaccurate. It's now assumed that Hezbollah has accumulated 40,000 of those small short-range missiles. But the most important is the M600 missile. Now, this is a guided missile, short-range ballistic missile, truck-mounted, solid fuel, can be launched quickly, 500-kilogram warhead, right, 1,100 pounds, 300 kilometers, much of Israel, not all, but much of Israel down to the middle. How many launchers do they have? Take a look at the article I'm quoting. It's from David Moon of the Asia Times, but get the main parts at tarpley.net. What could this mean? The Israelis have a layered missile defense system. At the lowest level, they have Iron Dome. That's for the small ones, the very short-range ones. Then we have David Sting. And above that, we have Arrow, and above that, Patriot. Patriot being the U.S. system that's supposedly trying to deal with IRBMs and even ICBMs, although I guess there are no ICBMs in this conflict. We have reports that the Israeli Air Force has drilled getting out of northern Israel fast and flying everything to bases in the south of Israel where the Hezbollah threat is less. Of course, you wonder if the Hezbollah got something that could reach all of Israel, what would that mean? And what if Hamas can do something better than those small missiles, those sort of homemade ones that they've been shooting off? But now let's look at this M600, the Fatah 110. According to Moon, this opens the possibility that, in my older terminology, the Israelis, the Hezbollah has been doing a counter-value strategy, that is to say, essentially bombing, trying to attack civilian areas. How about a counter-force strategy? Counter-force would be target Israeli airfield. Some of these debates go back to Israeli Syria in the 1970s, right? The accuracy of Scuds and things like this. You'll find old studies. But the Israeli Air Force, obviously a key part of their military posture. What happens if you fire these M600s primarily at the air bases? They have a GPS guidance system, and they can be relatively accurate. The Hezbollah supposedly has hundreds of these, and here's what Moon says: if the Hezbollah were to fire their M600s in high-volume volleys, the Arrow system could be overwhelmed. Now, the Iranians on their side have the Shahab 3B, short-range or intermediate-range, I guess still short-range ballistic missile. Suppose we get coordinated salvos from Hezbollah in the north and from Iran over there to the east of Israel. Does this have the potential, if it's done simultaneously coordinated, to overwhelm the various components of the Israeli layered defense system? Now, there's a big question. And if you start hitting the Israeli Air Force bases, then you get a bad, for the Israelis, a very critical situation. Hezbollah now has the Russian-made SAM-7 Grail. These are handheld, shoulder-held, sort of one-man, two-man, low-level anti-aircraft surface-to-air missiles. The Grail, the SA-14 Gremlin, and the SA-18 Grouse. Shoulder-fired SAMs as a point defense to cover mobile missile launchers like the M600 during the time they're being brought out, fired, and then put back in caves or under cover or whatever it is. The Hezbollah also has the SA-8 Gecko, 16-kilometer range up to 12,000 meters. Now, that's, almost 36,000 feet. So that's pretty significant. If the Syrians have given the Syrians have a new radar system provided by the Iranians. So his conclusion is, for Israel, the cost of setting back Iran's nuclear program a few years before dealing decisively with Hezbollah and Syria is now at an all-time high. Now, the danger of all this is, as long as the Israelis can win or hold their own on the conventional plane, there is no incentive to escalate to the nuclear plane. But if the Israelis find themselves losing in such a conflict on the conventional plane, just as we've heard about the U.S., their obvious move is to escalate to the nuclear level, as that Navy captain pointed out in the U.S. case. So this means we've got various ways that this whole thing could get out of hand, and by that I mean nuclear escalation, quite easily, given the fact that the presence of these relatively sophisticated weapons of Hezbollah this is a highly significant change even over the last 4 years. So what do we do about this? Well, the old slogan applies: get active or get radioactive. There is a meeting of the U.S. anti-war movement in Albany, New York. It's supposed to be a national confab. I would urge this group, take seriously now the fact that it's Obama planning the war, in effect. The warmonger-in-chief is Obama. You cannot say that this is irrelevant, right? Imagine the Vietnam peace movement without mentioning LBJ, or the anti-Iraq war movement without mentioning G.W. Bush, personalizing a policy when it's the president's policy that he's ordering and allowing and promoting is not just allowed, it's essential, it's imperative. Anything else is impotence. Anything else really is sabotage. So what you're going to need is anti-war candidates in the congressional election. You've got to back those, Democratic dissidents in primaries, third-party candidates, Greens, independent Greens, whatever they are, libertarians, it doesn't matter. Somebody who's going to put forward a case against war and escalation. You've got to promote a primary challenger against Obama in the Democratic primaries in New Hampshire and Iowa starting in January. That is 6 months away. The preparations have to begin now. It's not early. It's actually getting a little bit late to start with that. If the Democratic Party is a viable institution, which nobody can judge, pessimistic in some ways, then let somebody come forward and show it. The French system seems to have some element of viability because of these scandals against Sarkozy. Let's get something going on that score here, right, using the array of stuff that we've already laid out even in this program. There's more than enough. Then you've got the question of short-term emergency mobilization. This is not really a question of numbers so much as to alert U.S. and world public opinion to the fact that the U.S. constellation of forces is now pointing towards war. And I think that is pretty much demonstrated by this paper. That's why I wrote it at the length and extent. Rather than assert it, I really tried to prove the case with detailed, accurate information, footnotes, fact, quotes, dates, and all the rest of it, so that this is not just an opinion or my impression, but I think it's amply documented. So I throw that into the pot and hope for the best. So for the Albany people, it's nice to sit around and listen to lectures by Noam Chomsky, but this is not this is an uncertain trumpet, frankly, and the various left liberal peace movement leaders who are essentially linked to the Democratic Party and to the foundations are going to be a barrier in getting things done that have to get done. So maybe the coming of third parties is an important thing. So we have this situation. Now, there's other news today that we haven't been able to cover. We've just had the European stress tests. 7 banks, 5 Spanish banks, 1 German bank, and 1 Greek bank have failed the stress test. And we're getting what I already thought, which is that CNBC is attacking the stress test and trying to tear it down. But we'll see about all of that. The main news was Obama is preparing to bomb Iran. So please go and read that now at tarpley.net, and read all the footnotes and follow some of them into the components of the analysis that I cite in that place. So God willing, we'll see you all next week. But remember, Time again to get active or get radioactive. That's the predicament in our time. And we'll see you again next week.